Spring had fully arrived in Briarwood by the time Annabelle and Richard made their way to the lake. The town was known for two things: its blooming dogwoods and its quiet lakeside parts. The lake wasn't large, but it had a kind of still beauty, like the world perched around it. That day, the path was dotted with young families, joggers, and the occasional pair of old friends walking closely and talking about everything or nothing at all. Annabelle and Richard walked in silence for a while, not an uncomfortable silence, one of ease. Annabelle had almost forgotten what it was like to be near someone who didn't need her to fill the gaps with words. They reached a one wooden bench overlooking the water. It was partly shaded by a marble tree, its branches just beginning to bud green again after winter. "This used to be my favorite spot," Annabelle said, lowering herself gently onto the bench. "John and I used to come here while the kids were little. We packed sandwiches and let them run wild." Richard nodded. "Carol and I had a spot like this in Vermont." She said the wind there made her feel like God was breathing close. Annabelle smiled at that, but then her eyes turned glassy. "I used to think I'll never sit here again, at least not like this." Richard's hands brushed hers, not entirely by accident. He didn't grip her hand, didn't force anything, just the touch, the possibility. She didn't move away. "I brought something," he said after a moment, pulling a small square envelope from his jacket. "It's a photo." She took it carefully. Inside was a black and white snapshot. Richard and Carol, young and laughing on a park swing, a guitar between them. "She loved music," he said, his voice suddenly fragile, "and she made me promise that I wouldn't close the door if love ever came knocking again." Annabelle looked at the picture, then at him. "Do you think this is that?" she asked. "Love knocking?" Richard met her eyes. "I think it might be." For the first time in years, she didn't flinch from the idea. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like breath returning to her lungs after a long submersion. A wind picked up, scattering cherry blossoms along the edge of the lake like confetti. "I'd like to come here again," Annabelle said subtly. "I like that too." They sat a while longer, watching the water, not speaking, just being. When they left the bench, hand in hand this time, the lake behind them simmered under the sun like it was quietly celebrating. The morning sun poured through Annabelle's kitchen window as she sat at the table, her hands wrapped around a warm mug of tea. The air felt different today, more hopeful. Maybe it was the quiet rustle of the leaves outside, or the faint, persistent chirping of birds that had returned with the season. Or maybe it was something deeper, something that had been growing within her eyes ever since she had first sat on that bench by the lake. Yesterday, Richard had called. He asked her to meet him at the lake again. She hadn't answered immediately. She had gone for a walk in her garden, breathing in the familiar scent, feeling the earth beneath her fingers, and somewhere between planting a roll of lavender and seeing the first buds of her rose bushes, she realized that it was time to make a choice, time to let herself feel alive again. She had lived her life in the shadow of what was lost, but could she open herself to what could still be? Could she love again? As she stood to get dressed, she realized that the last thing she wanted was to be stuck in the past. Life had kept moving while she had been waiting for it to stop. And the person standing in front of her now, the person she had become in the years since John's death, deserves to live fully. Annabelle Rivers deserved a second chance at happiness, and so did Richard. When she arrived at the lake, the same bench was waiting, just as they had left it. Richard was there too, sitting in the shade, his hands resting on his knees. He looked up as she approached, his eyes lighting up with something warm, something inviting. "I thought you might not come," he said with a small smile. Annabelle returned it. "I almost didn't, but then I remembered. I had nothing to lose." Richard stood, stepping toward her, and everything to gain. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as it found his fingers coiled around hers, steady and sure. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," she whispered. "I've spent so many years holding on to memories. I've let them keep me from living, and I don't want that anymore." Richard squeezed her hand gently, his voice soft. "I know. I feel the same way. It's been hard, but I'm here. And I'm not asking for anything except for a chance to be a part of your life." Annabelle closed her eyes, the wind tugging gently at her hair. In that moment, all the doubt, the years of grief, seemed to vanish into the air. They were just two people, two souls who had wandered through life, lost in the labyrinth of time, only to find each other when they were ready, when they were whole. "I want to try," she said. "I want to see where this goes with you." Richard's smile was slow, full of warmth. "Then let's see." They sat on the bench, side by side, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. The world seemed bigger now, more full of possibility. And for the first time in years, Annabelle didn't feel the weight of her past holding her back. She felt free. It had been 6 months since that day by the lake. The season had changed. Summer had come and gone, and now autumn was settling in, painting the town in hues of orange and gold. But for Annabelle and Richard, time had taken on a new meaning. They had found joy in the simple things: long walks, quiet dinner, shared laughter, and even the occasional trip to the local bakery. The lake was their place. The bench by the water had become their heaven. And while the memories of their past will always linger, Annabelle no longer saw them as burdens. They were the things that had made them who they were, but they didn't define them. Their future was theirs to write. Annabelle had begun to find her voice again, her true self. She joined the local book club, something she hadn't done in years. She started painting again, taking classes at the community center. She had had dreams she had forgotten, and now she was chasing them. And Richard was there every step of the way, offering her love, encouragement, and support. And on a crisp Saturday morning, as they stood hand in hand by the lake, Annabelle whispered to him, "I think I'm finally ready to say goodbye to the past." Richard smiled, his arm around her shoulder, and kissed the top of her head. Goodbye to the past and hello to everything else. They walked back toward a small cottage where life awaits them. Together, two hearts, once broken, now healed. And in the quiet of the autumn breeze, the love they had found blossomed just like the lavender in Annabelle's garden. Hope you're inspired by this story. Do subscribe for more value-adding stories.